News of Aegon's return has set the Queen on the dark path.
Hey there, House of the Dragon fans! Welcome back to the channel. The penultimate episode of House of the Dragon Season 3 was all that it promised to be and more. We say promised, perhaps leaked is a better word. But regardless, the stage is finally set for an explosive finale to a season that's been confusing. It started off strong with the Battle of the Gullet, but then meandered with several show-exclusive original plot points. However, things are lining up with Martin's original vision as all the important players in the Game of Thrones are converging. With the season finale a week away, let's take a look at all the things that might happen in it, based on everything that already has. Spoiler warning for House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 7, and let's get right to it. Aegon's return and Aemond's survival. Rhaenyra's descent into madness begins. The ending of Season 3 Episode 7 was explosive to say the least, because at least now we're getting the thrilling enigma that was King Aegon Targaryen II. In the books, Aegon was renowned as a drunk and a womanizer, but also as a highly militant and angry monarch. There's something about him that feels almost grand, in that he keeps fighting despite being burned and broken, or perhaps because of it. It also helps that he's not entirely a mama's boy in the books, and no, we're not praising him without acknowledging that he was a terrible man who did terrible things. But there was a gravitas to him that felt lacking in the show up until now. Aegon's speech declaring that he is the rightful 6th king of Westeros to the men of Lord Mouton, who had set out to retake Rook's Rest, was truly riveting, and Sunfire emerging from the shadows, burned and rotting, yet very much alive, was the cherry on top of a season highlighting moment. Aegon has his dragon burn his enemies to death while laughing like a madman, and we suspect Larys Strong will change his plans of moving to Braavos after hearing about this particular development. But Larys isn't the only one who will be making new plans, because Rhaenyra's entire world just turned upside down. The only reason she held the upper hand over the Greens for the majority of Season 3 was because most of the realm believed her claim that Aegon was dead. That gave her more legitimacy within King's Landing, which was needed, and many were glad to hear of Aegon's demise, but things have changed since she spread that lie throughout the realm. Rhaenyra's position within King's Landing has become worse and worse since she decided to send gold cloaks to crack down on the people, and Ormond Hightower launched his shadow war in Daeron's name against her. The fact that she told a petitioner she'd light a candle for an assault victim after another petitioner complained about tallow shows you how tone-deaf she is. And Torrhen Manderly is wise to her scheme of having him take the fall for the crown's empty treasury. Rhaenyra has just discovered that her son was killed by her husband's daughter in a way, that her husband lied to cover it up, and that her top advisor is also manipulating her. Even though she sleeps with Arya in Episode 7, that's not likely to make her forget everything else. And the previews for Episode 8 suggest that she will end up confiding in and going right back to Daemon. But Aegon's survival means Rhaenyra's line to the High Septon, to the lords and ladies, to the realm itself will be exposed, and her track record isn't great to begin with, so seeing dissent foment against her wouldn't surprise us at all. Plus, she was obsessed with killing just one of Alicent's eldest sons. What do you think her reaction will be when she hears that both of them have survived? Helena's pregnancy becomes even more dangerous to her in that case, because now Aegon's succession could become secure once again. We'll get into more of what Helaena will do next episode and perhaps next season in a moment, because first, we need to establish the positions of 3 of the 4 current claimants to the Iron Throne. Rhaenyra Targaryen will begin her descent into infamy and madness next episode, as her obsession with being a prophesized hero, with all the requisite symbols of power while lacking the experience or education to wield them, leads her down, as Adam puts it in the preview, a dark path. Aegon Targaryen, having reunited with Sunfire, will most likely do one of 2 things. Right now, Aegon and Sunfire have cargo to transport. They've got Tywin Lannister with them, and we expect that they'll go after Larys as well, now that they have an actual dragon in hand. Once the trio's reunited, if it is, Aegon's going to need a new destination. His objective has been Aemond ever since he became lucid enough to talk. He was willing to walk to Windish Town from Rook's Rest to kill his brother, but officially, no one knows where Aemond is. Aegon could consider going to Harrenhal given that it was his last known location, but his counselors will counsel him not to throw away his newly regained advantage so easily. Even if he has Sunfire back with him, the dragon is still no match for Vhagar, and it's ghastly and gruesomely injured besides. We're not even sure if he can fly with just Aegon on his back, let alone Tywin and Larys. They could take Maidenpool, but the city has too many soldiers for Aegon and Sunfire to defeat, or head back to Rook's Rest, but they'd face similar consequences. Aegon needs to hide like his baby bro, but where will he go? Well, considering the show's making it seem like the more honest people are becoming with him, the better his decisions and convictions are becoming, we think Aegon himself might end up landing on the idea to go to Dragonstone. He's heard Larys and Tywin bicker and bitch about where they should flee to, and while he agreed with Larys, they also parted ways for a reason. Tywin wants Aegon to go to Casterly Rock, but it's too far away. through enemy territory, and Sunfire might not be ready for long travel just yet. Dragonstone is in the middle of Braavos and Casterly Rock, relatively speaking, and it will allow Rhaenyra to pay her back with her own coin. She took his seat with treachery, so he'll take hers with treachery as well. And we might also glimpse Sir Alfred Broom in the finale, the man who we know is going to betray Rhaenyra. So that's our prediction for the first 2 of the 4 claimants. Rhaenyra will go insane, and crazy Aegon will gain determination and somewhat of a military mind all of a sudden. What about Aemond? Well, the lad's going to have to grapple with the fact that his own mother poisoned him and then fled the castle when he wakes up. Because he will wake up. Alice Rivers is an excellent witch, and she takes great care of the people she drives insane with her powers. But the fact is, Aemond will now have no one to rely on but her. His mom tried to kill him. The brother he tried to kill is back with the dragon. His army gone. His commander gone. His little brother has been crowned and people think he's a coward that has fled. Even Vhagar isn't with him anymore. Although if she was sighted at Fairmarket, then she's closer to him than he knows. Fairmarket is in the Riverlands, and it's just across Harrenhal and Windish Town. Will Aemond cross the Trident next episode? We doubt it. The preview shows him stumbling around Harrenhal, and for some reason, House of the Dragon insists on excruciatingly drawing things out. But he will be forced to accept that Alice was right about Alicent coming to do him some evil, and that will make him take her willingly. It's also possible that this union could prove to be magical, and might, in addition to conceiving an heir, make a dragon egg hatch. When Aemond held Dreamfire's egg, he said it was warm after Alice's blood was smeared across it. Dany's theme song also played in the background, which can only mean one of 2 things. Either these eggs will somehow end up becoming Dany's eggs, or they'll have a similar fate to Dany's eggs, and the latter seems more likely. In the books, there's a mention of Alice Rivers having not only Aemond's heir, but also a dragon in Harrenhal after the dance is done. It's possible that their union will be the thing that makes the egg hatch, or leads to discovering a way to make it hatch. Creating another dragon rider will certainly appeal to the isolated and paranoid Aemond, and there's a slim chance that him reuniting with Vhagar isn't completely off the books. So in a weird way, the Greens will rise up stronger than the Blacks by the end of Season 3, despite spending most of it on the back foot. And Episode 7 seems to suggest that all of the Greens will be fighting, even the gentlest of them. Helaena's visions explained. Episode 7 started with a vision Helaena Targaryen was experiencing, where she fondly interacted with a mare tied to a wagon in the courtyard of the Red Keep. Then the doors to the keep opened. A bright light flooded the world, and Helaena was woken up by Rhaenyra. She has 3 more visions while she sleeps, after having a rather tense conversation with her half-sister about prophecies, and whether she can answer her questions like a proper oracle. There's a vision where she gives birth to a child who's taken away by stone-faced Queensguard members, a vision of her playing with her twins in front of a cottage, with that same pale mare as the sun is eclipsed, and darkness and cold surround the world, and a vision of her on Dreamfire in riding leathers, burning an advancing crowd in the Dragon Pit. This is our first proper look at Dreamfire, and she is both beautiful and terrifying. Plus, Helaena soft confirmed a theory many in the fandom have long had, that dragon dreamers and dragons is a dangerous combination because the magical power of their union would be overwhelming. In fact, Viserys' belief that the dragons are a power man should never meddle with is specifically brought up in relation to Helena's current inability to ride Dreamfire because of how it overwhelms her mind. But then, what do the visions mean? Why is she on Dreamfire burning a bunch of people? Something most didn't and still don't think her capable of doing. Well, the answers might not be what you expect, because no, Helena's probably not going to do a complete 360 and become a badass warrior all of a sudden. She's going to suffer tragedies that can be explained by these visions, and Dreamfire most certainly is going to be burning a bunch of people in the Dragon Pit by the time this story is done. We think that the first vision with the pale mare represents Helena's desire for freedom, and what lies beyond the Red Keep. We can't say for sure what she sees when the doors open up, but we can say that pale mares are generally considered a symbol of death. In Book 5 of A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a bloody flux called the Pale Mare that ravages Dany-occupied Meereen. And in Christianity, the Horseman of Death rides a pale mare. This could hint at the ride of King's Landing, which is sparked by Helena's demise, and the Eclipse vision could be showing us Helena's ideal version of a world which would end with the White Walker invasion. As for the child that the Queensguard takes away, it's a hint at Rhaenyra's decision about what to do with Helena's child, and based on everything we've seen so far, things do not look good for that kid. Rhaenyra has established a pattern of saying she won't become something and then becomes exactly that. And the murder of her child would explain Helena's somewhat inexplicable demise in the books. As for her riding Dreamfire, Fire and Blood also mentions that when Helaena dies, Dreamfire snaps her chains off and rises within the Dragon Pit, almost as if in response to her death. She also becomes the one who kills most of the crazed mob that descends upon the pit. So is it possible that Helaena will end up dying with her dragon? Yes, but it's also possible that what she saw there wasn't herself, but rather a soul-merged version of her. We know that when wargs die in the north, their souls merge with the animals they warg into and begin a second life. We know that dragons are created using blood magic that involves soul-stuffing people into dragons so they can bond with bloodlines on an existential level. The 3 heads of the dragon refers to the dragon, the rider, and the soul inside the dragon that links them to one another, and we already know that dragons feel their rider's pain. When Daemon was shot with an arrow during the war in the Stepstones, Caraxes felt his pain. When Rhaenyra agonized bringing forth Visenya, Syrax agonized with her. Something similar could happen with Dreamfire and Helaena, but one thing is for certain, our beloved innocent bug-loving queen's death is imminent. All the imagery in her visions are of death, and the real question is whether it will happen next episode or next season. And also, will Alicent make it back in time to save her daughter? Her entire arc this season has been trying to redeem herself by keeping Helaena safe, but it seems like she's destined to lose her. It would be the height of irony if Helaena were to die while she's away from the capital, but that's a very real possibility, and it would end any sort of hope she has of leniency or mercy for or from Rhaenyra. There's a slim chance she might get picked up by Aegon simply because they're in the same general area. Harrenhal, Maidenpool, and Rook's Rest form a sort of triangle at the border between the Riverlands and the Crownlands, and this show had Jon Roxton sneak up on Corlys Velaryon's entire war camp in the night. Anything's possible when it comes to troop movement and the like, and being reunited with Aegon will be another moral quandary for Alicent to work out. But the issue of Helena's redemption doesn't change, and it's looking more and more likely that Alicent will fail her daughter like she keeps failing herself. Rhaena and Baela's reckoning and the Velaryon plight. Daemon Targaryen himself might be safe from Rhaenyra's wrath on account of their familiarity and the longevity of their bond. He's allowed to go to Templeton after all to take control of the River Army and the Winter Wolves and burn Aemond Hightower and Daeron Targaryen out of the town. The preview shows us that the first battle of Templeton will be a major focus for episode 8, and rightly so, considering how big of a turning point it was in the books as well. But Daemon escaping his wife's fury doesn't extend to his children, and what Rhaenyra spares him in their intimate moments, she takes out on them in public. Throughout Season 3, she's pushed Baela harder than she deserves to be pushed because she's punishing her for Jace's death. She won't say it, but both of them know it, and they haven't shared the screen since Baela brought back Jace's body. In that time, both Adam and Alan seem to have fallen for her, but she only likes Alan, and Adam seems to have adjusted to that reality rather quickly. In the preview for episode 8, we see him talking to Alan, and he warns him that the Queen's mood has taken a dark turn after Aegon's survival was revealed. In episode 7, we see Alan receiving his father's ring finger with the signet ring still on, and it's possible that he thinks Corlys is dead. That would explain the funeral we keep seeing him walking in, although we have a feeling that isn't true. What is true though, is the fact that Adam and Alan will now be on high alert. Adam's assessment is bang on point. In the preview, Rhaenyra grabs Baela's face like she's an insolent little commoner who dared to speak to her. She's going to let her frustrations out on the poor girl, and if she figures out that Baela and Alan slept with each other, then that's only going to make matters worse. Baela was supposed to marry Jace, and best believe Rhaenyra will never forget that. The fate that awaits Rhaena we can only dream of, because she might have saved her stepdaughter from being killed in a 4-dragon standoff, but that doesn't mean Rhaena has been forgiven. This is uncharted territory for both you and us, so we don't know what Rhaena's punishment will look like, but we can assume that Rhaenyra might send Baela off to Dragonstone after berating her, because if she keeps seeing her in King's Landing, she'll be tempted to take her life. That could set the stage for the dramatic encounter between Aegon and Baela from the books if the king does decide to do what we suggested earlier. As for the Velaryons, Corlys seems to be in a bit of a Ned Stark, Lord Varys situation with Aemond Hightower. In episode 8's preview, he appears to be telling Aemond that he only has 2 paths in front of him: victory or a bunch of dead Hightowers. And this comes after Aemond's already tried and failed at swaying Corlys to the Green's cause. Without him in charge, the Blacks need a figurehead of House Velaryon, and if the funeral scene does in fact belong to Corlys, then we can see Rhaenyra repeating her mistake with declaring Aegon dead prematurely, just to name Alan of Velaryon and have him send her more soldiers. At this point, Alan is the only one who has shown himself capable of restraint among the Velaryons. Adam made the mistake of speaking up for Baela in council, so it's possible that when he's talking to Alan about the Queen's dark mood, that's the show's version of Corlys helping his son escape Rhaenyra's paranoia. Adam has unfinished business on the Isle of Faces after all, where the Green Men await him, but even if he remains in King's Landing for the finale, he won't be there for too long in Season 4. As for Corlys, it's possible that he escapes during First Tumbleton and returns to King's Landing with Daemon, who will be there for the battle. Although we should note that Daemon has no idea where Corlys is, and we're not sure he'd mount a rescue for the man out of the kindness of his heart. So overall, all of those with Velaryon blood in their veins are in the crosshairs of Rhaenyra's wrath, and their actions and loyalty can either make or break her reign at this point. That's because the 2 betrayers, Aemond's master plan revealed. At the end of episode 7, it was revealed that Ormond Hightower's true ace up the sleeve isn't Corlys Velaryon or the people of Templeton. It's actually Ulf, who he's been talking to for some time. This is a development that makes a lot of sense and is also a rare improvement on the source material because in the books, Hugh and Ulf's betrayal comes out of nowhere. In the show, they're rotating watches over Templeton, and while Hugh seems to be loyal enough to Rhaenyra, having to sneak into the town to meet his wife, Ulf is clearly having second thoughts about his loyalties. To be fair, both Rhaenyra and Daemon have treated him like filth, and yes, Ulf is a rowdy guy, but he could also be dealt with more respectfully. Because they haven't done that, and because Ormond has spies, he knows all about Ulf, and he has won him over with promises, with lordships and castles, and a decent ale with a lad. This is a setup for something that happens later in Season 4 as well, but for Season 3, this is evidence of Ulf's betrayal. When the battle begins in the next episode, Ormond and the Hightowers will allow the Blacks to think that they're winning. They'll allow Templeton to be sacked and pillaged and burned, just enough for people to believe that Rhaenyra will attack even her own subjects, before Ulf swoops in and drives Daemon and the River Army away with Silverwing. And Daeron and Tessarion will prove to be great backup, which makes the Greens look better than the Blacks. Their king fights on the front lines to protect the good people of Templeton, and noble Ulf is a liberator, not an oppressor in Ormond's New World Order. Then there's Hugh Hammer, who's also going to betray Rhaenyra, but not for the reason you might think. See, Hugh is a decent guy, but he's also kinda dumb and easy to anger. In episode 6, he snuck into Templeton thinking his wife will be happy to see him, forgetting that he abandoned her and left her to the wolves. He honestly couldn't comprehend why she wouldn't want to leave the town with him, and when she screamed to attract the guards' attention, Hugh looked betrayed and angry. He looks angry in the preview for episode 8 as well, but is that anger at his wife or anger at the queen who took her from him? There are many ways in which logic can be contrived to fit one's worldview, and it looks like Hugh will decide to just burn everything that's wronging him. That includes his bitch wife and the bitch queen who took both her and their daughter from him. So when Vermithor joins Silverwing and Tessarion in obliterating the Blacks, it won't be justifiable, but it will make sense. Season 4 will begin with the Greens in the driving seat of the war, but that's a prediction for a couple years later. For now, this is what we think will happen next week. So let us know what you think about these predictions and drop yours down in the comments as well. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more dragon content. We'll see you guys real soon with yet another video. Until then, stay safe and have a great day.